Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting. I call the meeting to order. This meeting of the Hopkins Select Board is being held both in person and remotely using the video conference platform Zoom. Currently, all members participating in the meeting are present in the meeting room, but some members may join remotely as well. The public has the option of attending in person here at Town Hall or via Zoom using the link posted in this meeting's agenda, and this meeting is being recorded. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right.
Let me stay over here.
You guys can move wherever you want. Oh, there's Matt.
Okay, I'll stay here then.
So next we're going to move to public forum. Each person will have up to 2 minutes to speak at public forum. Please start by stating your name and address. Is there anyone present in the meeting room who would like to speak? Public forum. Amy, can you check to see if we have anyone on Zoom?
There are 3 people on Zoom, but there are no hands raised.
Okay. I'll give one last chance for anyone on Zoom that would like to speak.
No one.
No? No. Okay. All right, so moving on, the Select Board will consider the following consent agenda. Marathon Fund Committee requests. The Board will consider approving the following Marathon Fund Committee requests. $5,537.50 requested by the Friends of Hopkinton, of which $1,200 to be used for portable restrooms, $787.50 to be used for volunteer T-shirts, and $3,350 for inflatables and a magician. All these expenses are to be used towards the Family Day to be held on September 19th, 2026. Another $6,000 requested by the Marathon Committee to be used for apparel for volunteers, veterans, and attendees for the marathon weekend, including Yard Dash Kids race shirts, hats for honored veterans and volunteers over the weekend, and on Marathon Monday. The board will also consider accepting the resignations of Alex Danahy from the Commission on Disability and Laura Calderwood from the Cultural Council. With that, I will open up to the board if there's anything they want to break out or have any questions or comments. Amy?
No.
Are we good?
All set.
Someone like to make a motion on that?
I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Welcome, Shadwell. All right, we've got a motion and a second on the table. Any final thoughts?
Thank you.
Perfect. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous and carries. Thank you again, as Matt mentioned, for any of those donations. So moving on, the Select Board will receive an update from the Town Treasurer and Collector, CJ Paquette, regarding the FY26 Q2 deposit and investments. CJ and Kyle are going to join us. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
All right, so I'm going to give a brief overview as I usually do. I'm not going to go through the whole report. So this report covers the period of October 1st to December 31st of 25. We earned roughly $1 million, 1.042 in interest this period. Interest rates on the money markets declined slightly. A lot of that is just due to the prime rates that have been decreasing. So there were 2 prime rate decreases this quarter, one October 30th and one on December 11th. So we saw our interest rates decreasing, basically following what the prime is doing. So on average, like I said, they decreased 0.3%. So all in all, we're doing really good considering the prime rates dropped 0.5. We're only dropping 0.3 on average. We do have really good relationships with our municipal banks, so we negotiate where we can to keep the rates as high as possible. It's important to note the decline in overall funds is due to ongoing capital projects of the schools. So Charleswood and Hopkins capital projects have totaled a little over 162 million since the projects have began, and they still have about 48 million left to spend. So when you look at the numbers from Q1 to Q2, you'll see a pretty dramatic decrease in cash, and that's just because of the capital projects. We did not open or close any new accounts this quarter. We did a lot of that last year, just kind of stabilizing some of our funds and opening new money market rates. That also allows us to have some negotiating power with the banks. You know, hey, this bank's giving us this, so if I'm getting a better rate there, I'm going to move my money. It gives me a little bit more power to get the best rate possible. Investments did well this quarter, but not as good as quarter one. I'm going to give you a market update, but from what we were seeing, there was a lot of kind of uncertainty with the government shutdowns and AI. So AI has been kind of questionable in the markets, so obviously that affects our bottom line as well. However, the diversification on the accounts that were able to go prudent have performed well, and that's, you know, it allows our investment team to kind of move money where they see fit. You know, so what's performing better, what's not performing as well, and let's move those around to try to get as much of a return as possible. We expect quarter three will be similar to quarter two for interest on money markets and investments. That's obviously an expectation. There's no perfect way to kind of forecast that, but I think the prime rate's pretty stable for now. There's talk that there may be another 0.25 dip at some time in the next quarter, but we're not sure when. So that's the update for now. There is a market update from Bartholomew and Company. It was not on the report because they didn't get it to me in time, but I wanted to just kind of read it out loud for everybody. So February 2026 market and economic updates. The U.S. economy continued to show steady but slower growth in early 2026. Fourth quarter GDP came in softer than expected, largely due to the temporary government shutdown, but the overall picture still reflects an economy that is growing. Looking ahead, early indicators suggest activity could pick up in the first quarter of this year, which we're currently in now. Inflation continues to cool gradually. January's inflation report came in right in line with expectations, with overall prices up 2.4% from a year ago and core inflation at 2.5%. Energy prices helped bring down the headline number, while some service categories like transportation kept core inflations a bit elevated. Still, the broader trend points towards easing price pressures as demand slow, wages normalize, and housing-related inflation continues to settle. The job market remains solid even as it slowly rebalances. January employment data shows a stronger than expected gain of 130,000 jobs, while the unemployment rate dropped slightly to 4.3%. More people are participating in the labor market, and importantly, this rebalancing is happening through fewer job openings, not through layoffs. That's a sign of continued economic health. At the Federal Reserve, policymakers are taking a patient approach. With inflation still above target, the Fed signaled that it wants more convincing evidence before cutting interest rates further. Markets currently expect two rate cuts in 2026, with the next major rate update coming in the March meeting. So we're expecting that. We don't know exactly what they're going to do. There's a lot of kind of ongoing issues. So financial markets were volatile in February. Concerns about the outlook for certain technology and software companies, especially in the context of rapid AI adoption, led to some pressure on growth stocks. Value stocks, on the other hand, outperformed. International stocks have also continued to do well relative to the U.S. In the bond market, interest rates moved lower, which helped boost returns for higher quality rate-sensitive areas such as U.S. Treasuries and agency mortgages. This provided a tailwind for more traditional fixed income portfolios. So, as we can tell in the market update from Bartholomew, there's good things, there's not so good things. So we're hoping that they balance each other out. So that's why we're predicting we'll have a very similar quarter three. That's obviously a prediction, so it might not be perfect, but that's what we're hoping for.
Perfect. So thank you, always a thorough kind of update for us. We always appreciate that.
Yeah.
To the board for comments, questions. Want to start, Amy?
Yeah, I don't really have any questions. It's a really good, thorough explanation, and it's all written down here for anyone who would like to see. For the public, too, when you say Q2, you mean so October to December, which is confusing.
Right, so it's Q2 for fiscal year.
Fiscal year, our fiscal year, but a lot
Yep.
of companies. Okay, and it all makes sense that we are spending some of our money for the school projects.
Right.
but, You know, we're still getting interest on the rest.
Yep,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate the update. I wanted to ask sort of a general question. At a very high level, CJ.
Yeah.
How does the town approach diversifying and protecting its investment portfolio in these uncertain times? I've been getting questions about the world writ large, the events that's happening don't need to be relitigated here.
Right.
What are we doing to make sure the town isn't impacted insofar as we can?
Yep. So 2/3 of our investment accounts are still in the state's legal list. And that legal list hasn't changed since, I believe, the late 80s, so like 89, somewhere around there. It's common, everyday purchases, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, General Electric, stocks as such. They really don't seem to fluctuate much, and the state has never removed them from the legal list. Like I said, that legal list has stayed pretty much the same since the late 80s. So that's 2/3 of our investment is in that list, right? So the 1/3 of investments, which are the trust funds, are the ones that are prudent. And with prudent trust funds, Bartholomew analyzes stocks of all kinds. They do try to stay pretty conservative with what we're investing in, just to keep us safe, right? So they're not investing in AI, for example, right now. That there's not enough backup to kind of signify what that's going to do. But they basically look at tried and proven stocks, securities, money markets, those kind of things to invest the trust funds in.
Perfect.
And you can see in the deposit investment report, I've questioned it myself. Like, how come one account that has $30,000 made more interest than an account that has $100,000? Right? And that's because one of those accounts might be prudent and one of them might be on the legal list. So while the legal list is the safer of the options because they've been tried and proven forever, they're not necessarily the biggest bang for your buck, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does. I really appreciate the high-level explanation. We both did a good job of not getting into details there. What I wanted to get out in the public space, to Amy's point, we have people both in the town and working on our behalf who are thinking about these things. Insofar as we can be planning and doing our due diligence, we are. I wanted to make sure you got to take credit for that good work. Thank you.
Thank you. This is very detailed and thorough. Appreciate the report on these. And I have two questions, or one just comment. So looking at the allocation, going back to the risk management piece and allocation of our investments, it seems, except for trust fund, OPEB and stabilization has less, stabilization has the least, only 10% exposure to the market, right? Mm-hmm. So almost 90% on fixed income, which is the right way to do it. So the risk is very well managed and minimum. And trust fund and OPEB has more exposure. We expect some growth. So I think this looks healthy and good. Of course, the experts are handling it, so I don't have to tell that.
And part of that comes from Mass General Law, which gives us rough guidelines about where we should be and where we should not be investing. So Bartholomew follows that for all of their municipal customers. OPEB obviously is invested a little bit more risky because we're expecting that is a long-term investment, right? So we're not expecting to use that tomorrow. That's something that's going to be there for a very long time. Whereas stabilizations, we try to invest more conservatively because you don't know when you're going to need a stabilization. Where you don't want to plan to use stabilization, you also don't want to not plan to use stabilization and not have that money available.
Sure, yeah. And the last question is, can you give a quarter-over-quarter interest gain from the market that we have experienced? I know last year was really good, bumper, but last 2 quarters versus this quarter, and what is expected next quarter?
Yeah, so like I said, for quarter 2, it didn't perform quite as well as quarter 1, which is mostly because of the prime decreases. So money markets have decreased probably 1 full point since a year ago less, since last year. So that's a big portion of it. A lot of our interest comes from money markets. So it's hard to predict what we're going to see in a year from now. But I think things are stabilizing. Money market rates aren't 5% anymore, right? We knew that was going to last forever. But I feel pretty confident in that, this 3 to 4% range is going to be the average.
Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
CJ, you mentioned $1 million in revenue in the last quarter, or interest in the last quarter, is that correct?
Yep.
So walk me through how that converts into our budgets. Does that become free cash? Does that go just into the accounts where the interest is coming out for the money? Like for the school funds, right? We got a bunch of money sitting there to pay out for the contractors. Does that money get used just for the school, or does that money come back to
No,
the general fund, or how's that work?
So not all of that 1 million is specific to a general fund. Some of that is for trust funds. So that interest is allocated to those specific trust funds. The general fund money, right? So money markets, even though we may have a higher balance for borrowing that we did for a school project, that ends up back in the general depository or the general fund.
Does that show up as free cash then, or?
No, on the sources and uses, you will see a line item called local receipts, and we actually estimated that to go up 40% for FY27. That is due to the interest income that's expected from the prudent investing in higher rates.
And
Have we already accounted for that as we talk about our budget when we get to this here in a few minutes? So that's already, quote, covering some other stuff?
right, and so historically, that budget has always been exceeded significantly. So that's why there was an increase for that budget this year.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. So thank you. I think my only question is kind of a follow-up. So when you were going through your market report, a lot of signs point to it's still a very high point in the market, right? So you typically don't really change strategy during that, but throughout the course of a year, when you work with Bartholomew, is there ever conversations around, anything you could do, we as a town could do different? How often do those conversations happen? And
Right, and so the biggest conversation that we've had was obviously getting the prudent investor legislation adopted at the local level, because that gives us slightly more power of what, where we can be investing. But like I said, that's only for our trust funds, right? So even if you add up all of the trust funds that are Bartholomew, it's not a significant amount of money. So our other investments are still tied to that legal list, so there's not much room we can do with investing there. But what I do personally with the money market rates and negotiating with our banks is a very common conversation. They try to lower our rates very regularly, so I check those every month. And if I notice that an interest rate's dropped, I will say, okay, well, I'm going to move my money to a bank that's giving me a higher rate.
Can you do annual reviews?
I do annual and semi-annual reviews with Bartholomew, and I have very regular conversations with our municipal banking team.
perfect. Nope, I just wanted to ask the question.
Yeah, of course.
So unless anyone's got anything else, thank you.
You're welcome.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, the board will consider abating the taxes on a parcel which was acquired by the town in FY25. The parcel is Lot E, Fitch Ave, parcel ID U22730. The amount of outstanding taxes is $1.73 in FY24 and $213.64 in FY25. Elaine, would you like to introduce this one, just walk us through the process for these things and how they typically work?
I'm just wondering if anyone from the assessors is online? Or
I don't see John Neese. Tony, Mary Z, or Dave Del Toro? No. Are we a little early?
Not really.
5 minutes early, I don't know.
Okay, well, I can address it. So what happened was there was a parcel at a town meeting, had a town meeting vote to convey to the town. Following up on that, the the owner recorded a deed conveying it to the town, and probably what happened was they didn't check to determine if there were any taxes owed at the time, didn't coordinate with the town, and so there was a lag between when this, after this was recorded, it became part of the town's database, and so taxes were assessed after the town owned it. And so the assessors have requested that that this board request that they abate those taxes going forward.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll look to the board. Any questions, comments? Brian, you want to start?
I have no questions, thank you.
Shido?
No questions, but it's great to see we are taking into account all dollars and cents. So that's as it should be.
Matt?
Listen, every dollar counts. I want to make sure, so this is my first time seeing one of these, so again, we'll do the out loud. This is essentially us choosing to not charge ourselves money that we would pay ourselves again. Okay, I wanted to just say out loud that we are both the front and the back of this. Thank you.
Ideally, the person conveying the land to the town coordinates with the town so that we can do the statement at the time.
Of course. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Amy?
And once we do it tonight, we won't have to do it every year. Okay,
All right.
I'm all set.
I move to request that the board assessors abate the outstanding real estate taxes on the town-owned property at Lot E Fitch Ave, Assessors Parcel U22-73-0 under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 72A.
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
Good catch.
Very good. Moving on. The Select Board will consider a request of Pavel Belor, 92 Clinton Street, for a street light in the vicinity. The resident states that due to the dense canopy of tall trees along this road, very little ambient light reaches the street, making it extremely dark at night. Visibility is limited, which creates safety concerns for drivers. This area is known for frequent wildlife activity, including deer and coyotes, which can suddenly cross the road and pose a risk to vehicles in low light conditions. Estimated cost of installation is $1,689. Elaine, would you like to introduce, what the process is for this typically, by the time it comes to the board and what information we need?
So typically, people may contact us, they may contact engineering. So in this case, they all get funneled to engineering facilities. So Dave Del Torio, our engineering, town engineer, facilities manager, takes these requests, looks at them, and then brings that to the board. So Dave is on Zoom today to discuss this issue.
And he-
Dave, can you hear us out there?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yep, we can hear you. Good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, so do you want to just walk us through? So it looks like it came to you first and, give us your thoughts on what you looked into.
Yeah, I can't recall exactly which department it came through, but it ended up, as they usually do, to me. I kind of coordinate with the homeowner, what their request is, follow that up with doing some little research to determine if it is a town, kind of a location in the town right away. I've received requests in the past where it might be a telephone pole in somebody's driveway that's out of the right of way. And it would become a kind of a private street light and the resident would take care of that themselves. This is in the right of way. There are other street lights on Clinton Street, far and few between. So I usually just forward that request to be on a board meeting, which we're here. And I did reach out to the police department to see if there's any, what the history of crashes they respond to on Clinton Street. And although it wasn't anything specific to this one address, over the last 5 years, they had between 10 and 15 accidents on Clinton Street, sort of up and down the street. So let's provide as much information from public safety as I can as part of these requests.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. And obviously you came forward and, asked for us to be on here, so I don't want to make any assumptions, but what's your recommendation?
I can include the cost in my operating budget to install it. If it provides an improvement to public safety, I'm always on board for doing that unless there's one task I left out. When I get these requests, I do reach out and try to find out if it's part of a subdivision or some sort of approved site plan, because on some of those, there are restrictions, uplighting restrictions in some of the planning board decisions. Being on the Clinton Street, there was none of those for this either, so I'd recommend installing one.
Perfect. Thank you, Dave. I'll kind of look to the board for thoughts. Matt, you want thoughts, questions? You want to start?
Yeah, thanks. This is my neck of the woods, literally and figuratively. I concur here with the need and with the ask. So first, thank you to the resident for taking it upon themselves to go through the process and to escalate this. This is a great example of the sort of change that you can actually influence with a call or an email. So please don't be intimidated. Secondly, I really appreciate that we're thinking creatively about this artery in particular. I think Clinton Street, as it crosses over into Holliston as kind of that back road, I think it's easy to miss it. The connector over on Ash Street, or by Ash Street on the other side of town, I think it's a little bit more obvious that that one is a bigger through line. I promise this does get some pretty significant traffic out my way. It is a windy road. It is indeed a dark road. It is pretty forested. So I appreciate the escalation here. I think it's something we need, and I'm talking about it this way because I'm hoping if you're looking around your street and it looks dark, scary, and like there's coyotes and deers ready to leap out, that you'll come and talk to us about it. Thank you.
Just quickly, again, for public safety, I think I'm supportive and it all makes sense. Dave, just quickly, in situations like this, do we have any obligation, but also would it be a good idea to notify the abettors or ask them for their opinion?
I haven't done that in the past. I'm not sure if there's a house across the street from this resident. I know houses aren't like really close together, I don't think, out in this area, but that's not something I've done in the past.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, some residents don't like, too much bright light in their area, but it is a public safety concern, and I fully appreciate the concern and supportive of it. If we may, that would be a good practice, probably. Good? Yeah, I'm good, Brian.
This is coming from somebody who was in the lighting business for 30 years before I came into the solar business. Streetlights are some folks' pleasure and other folks' pain. And I'm a little nervous about putting up individual lights in spots in town where folks want them based on their preference. I think that this should be a planning board thing, a zoning board thing, a conservation commission thing. I think we need to check this out from a lot of different angles. If we start popping up streetlights where everybody complains or has a concern, we're going to look like a Christmas tree. So we have a lot of streets in Hopkinton that do not have any streetlights on them, and I'm not in favor of this. Not for any reason about where anybody lives. It's nothing to do with that. Solely because I think it's a precedent that could become difficult for us to manage going forward. Thank you.
Thanks. Amy, thoughts?
Yeah, I had similar thoughts to Shaidul that some people really want more light and more well-lit streets, and it looks like it is needed there, but other people really want to preserve the dark skies. So I'm generally okay with it, but I just don't want to surprise any abutters. So I don't know if, I can't remember the last time we've done one of these. It seems like if there are abutters, it would be good to notify them, but as long as they've been notified, I don't have any objections.
You good?
Well, the question is,
You're asking that to them.
could we notify abutters, or?
We could, and I'm reminded, Dave may remember, we had another request on Clinton Street.
Yeah.
Did
That's
that,
right, yeah.
what happened with that?
Yes, the last one was, there's an Autobahn Society property. I'm forgetting exactly what street that is off of. That was the
It's
last
off
one.
Clinton by where it bridges with North Mill.
Yeah, there's a parking area up there, and on a butter up the street had asked if a light could go there. And it was installed. And I've only, 15 years that I've been here, there may only be a handful that we've done. There's also been a handful of requests that have been, I don't say rejected, but town staff hasn't moved forward for one reason or another, either, as I said, planning board decisions, requested location, private road. This request, you know, the only streetlights there on Clinton, I think, are on Front Street and then East Street. I'm not sure if that's, it just seemed like they were kind of far apart. I don't think there's a streetlight on like the next pole, but.
Dave, it's a dark stretch from where that four-way intersection is, just past Legacy South, until you get up to where you are describing, up by where the turn is to the laborers, up on East Street. That is, and it's hilly as well, for those of you who have driven it. Like, not only is it dark, narrow, and twisty, you go up over a blind.
Yeah, it's about halfway between Front Street and East Street is where this location would be.
Okay. Elaine, what's your thoughts? You know, the thing for me is the discussion around like planning board. They obviously weren't involved in this one. Just in general, do you think they should be involved in the process for something like this?
You know, it doesn't hurt to reach out and ask for comments from Concom, planning, and to notify abutters as well. And to, perhaps board members would like to visit the area too, drive through it and see what you think.
I think that's fair and reasonable next step. We've got a couple meetings coming up still the rest of the month, so I think we've got time to reach out and revisit this. We don't want to take long. It is a public safety issue, so with that, like, I'll look to see if there's a motion. Anyone want to do anything, or do we want to hold off and reach out?
It makes sense to hold off.
Hold off. Straw poll?
I'm comfortable waiting a couple weeks and.
I'm not. I'm challenged on this one. I can understand the concerns about precedents, but we're hearing Dave voice over how few of these have been done, and there is the active filter that is Dave Del Torio, the individual we expect to be executing and influencing on our behalf here. I don't like the idea that something can be escalated to this board under the auspices of public safety and for us to send it back on process. I think that sends a confusing and concerning message, regardless of whether or not the process concern is valid, and I'm inclined to believe it is, by the way. I just don't like the look of someone coming to us in Dave's position and saying there's a public safety issue, and us saying, we agree, but that's a tough pill. Can't support that one.
Okay. Brian, any thoughts?
No, I've shared mine, thanks.
So I don't really hear enough, you know, votes to like move forward with a motion. So I think we'll probably, unless someone wants to make a motion and try, we'll probably move forward and connect with Concom, Planning Board, and revisit this, you know, in short order.
Could I make a motion to continue discussion to this after sending a notice to the planning board, Concom, and abutters?
Second that?
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'm sorry, I missed the motion.
It's a motion to continue the discussion
Great.
upon like conversation with planning board, Concom, and abutters, I think she said. So,
Because they may have no comments at all. They may all think it's fine.
yep. All right, so we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that was 4-1. All right, we will visit that shortly. Next, the Select Board will review and consider adopting the FY27 comprehensive budget, operating capital, and submitting it to the Appropriation Committee. Kyla, would you like to join us for this one? Are you, process-wise, how are we doing this?
I can just.
I saw you here.
I can review the changes since you last saw the budget. Kyla's here to answer any questions as well.
Even better.
So just referring to my memo in the packet, I'll go through the major changes to the budget that have been made since it was submitted to you in January. And these numbers have been adjusted based on new information received and as discussed in your meetings with the various departments. First, free cash has been certified for $16,178,850. The use of free cash for capital and other expenses in the budget has not changed. The governor's budget proposes a reduction in what we had predicted for state aid, so this number has been reduced by $147,001. This number isn't final, and we'll continue to monitor this through the legislative budget process. For employee benefits and insurance, we reduced this by about $151,000, but this is still an estimated expense. I am nervous about our health insurance costs, and I do expect that to go up, but we don't know that number yet, so we'll keep working on that. The final number for Keefe Tech Regional School represents a small increase of about $2,400 since January, and the final number for Metro West Veterans went up about the same, and both of those are due to health insurance costs in those organizations. Holiday Lights have been funded at $15,000 by reducing the appropriation for the electronic voting system rental to zero. The budget does include funding to purchase the electronic voting systems in the capital plan. And the reduction in sewer enterprise debt of $652,573 based on new figures from the town of Westboro. The budget proposes using free cash for prior year bills, if any are identified, to fund OPEB and general stabilization, for town meeting articles, capital projects, one-time expenses, the HCAM budget funding to supplement the PEG access account, and for snow and ice, which at this point is probably a little over $1 million at this point, above what we budgeted. So just in summary, I recommend that the package be transmitted to the Appropriation Committee for review and consideration, and their meetings on the budget begin next week with various departments.
Perfect. Thank you, Elaine. To the board, thoughts, questions? Shidul, you want to start this on?
Sure. Just some quick clarification questions. So to be clear, happy to see that the holiday lights are back, and also wanted to clarify the voting equipment rental went zero because we are covering it with the capital cost for a permanent solution. So that's not going to hurt anything on the voting system, right?
It's a longer-term savings.
Yeah, no, that's great. It worked out well. Other than that, I think only other question I had was the state has reduced to 151. Can you give a quick snapshot? How much is the total from state this year? Was it last year? And should we expect, do we know if we should expect less next year? I'm just trying to understand the trend a little bit.
Is that for the employee benefits and insurance?
No, the state,
State aid?
the state aid, sorry.
Yeah, that was reduced, but that was the governor's budget, so the legislature is still going to be coming up with their budget and working with the governor on a compromise at some point. So we await the outcome of that process.
Do we see significant difference this year and expect for next year? I'm just trying to see if we should be aware and alert with something.
If you look at enclosure 1 schedule, it gives you the difference between FY26 and FY27. So you'll see that it's only a 3% increase from last year.
Okay. It gives an idea. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yep.
Brian?
Elaine or Kyla, can you guys reaffirm what the tax impact is, overall tax impact is net new growth, please?
About 6%.
6%, including new growth.
Not including.
Okay, let me ask it another way. Can you reaffirm or let us know what the tax impact is to the average household net of new growth?
I don't have it in front of me, but when I did the calculation for the appropriation report, it's about $700.
Which is just percentage-wise.
Yeah.
Are we under 2.5?
On the,
You know what I mean?
yeah, well, it was, that $700 is roughly 6.06%. So for the average tax bill is roughly $14,000, and then 6.6% on that.
Okay. How about the I'm trying to figure out the operating budget impact on the average household in the Prop 2.5. Where are we? I know we've got debt exclusion, significant debt exclusion beyond that, but in terms of the operating profit, you know what I mean?
So just for the levy is 2.3%. Is that what you're looking for?
That's it, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of where we were, that's under 2.5. Okay, that's good. Thank you very much.
Good. Amy?
Yeah, actually, I was trying to look up what the tax impact was last year, but it'll be in the appropriations report. So I'm comfortable moving this forward to appropriations, but since these numbers do change, we could always modify the motions before we get to town meeting if needed, right? If insurance goes up or something. Okay.
Good, Amy?
Yep.
Matt?
So help me out here, then I'm going to show my green here and ask some process questions. So this is us transmitting to appropriations for further refinement and execution. It comes back to us for further endorsement? I'm asking.
It does.
Okay. As it stands now, does the budget we are reviewing for endorsement include the allocation for the loop road from the schools?
No.
So removed after our discussion from last time.
Well, this is for FY '27. The loop road is another discussion that the schools would have to submit to town meeting based on a capital proposal that was already approved.
So I'm inclined to agree with how you're interpreting that, but we had a very lengthy discussion here in which the school is attempting to reappropriate some of the extra money remaining from Charleswood, I don't want to get my names wrong,
It's Hopkins.
Hopkins, to redo Loop Road. We gave,
Nothing to do with this budget. That's a separate capital request that was approved in fiscal year of '24. So that money has already been approved.
yes, that I understand. The allocation of the money is approved. I'm teasing it, and I'm sorry, gang, I promise I have a point here. I'm trying to understand if we are tacitly endorsing the reallocation by transmitting this, because we were adamant, and I say we because all of us universally gave some pretty clear feedback about this. So I'm trying really hard to understand. If I say, yes, this goes to appropriations, is Matt saying wasn't an issue?
Gotcha. So to put together what you're both saying, it was approved and allocated in FY '24. That money was borrowed. As we know, typically with these projects, not all that money that's borrowed is used on the projects. This is why it was recently brought in as a change order. And so, typically that money would either come back or I don't even know. I guess that's the question. What will we do with it? And then does that play into the budget that we're approving, to Matt's question?
So the unspent money should be rescinded via an article at town meeting. Once it's rescinded, it can be reappropriated at town meeting to be used for a different capital project. It has not been submitted to me, so it's not included in the transmittal to appropriations.
Okay, that I think is the rub. I apologize, Kyla. We've been having the out loud conversation about this, and I was super mindful of, I did not want to be accused of transmitting this and tacitly accepting it. We were aligned as a board. We rarely are. I didn't want to miss that.
Nope, it's a good call out, Matt.
I'm otherwise okay, and I appreciate the diligence. Thank you for all of the hard work and the creative work that went into this.
Good. Yeah, I only have one other question, because again, it's more just so people listening at home can understand. For the employee benefits and insurance, that's where we're expecting an increase. And we're also working off of estimates. When do we typically get that actual number? That's late in the second half of the year, calendar year?
Hopefully, we're hoping for something within the next month.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that's all the questions I had.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt the FY 2027 comprehensive budget, operating and capital, and to submit it to the Appropriations Committee.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Okay. Thank you, Kyla. All right, so next, the Select Board will consider reviewing the May 2nd, 2026 Annual Town Meeting draft warrant articles and motions and taking positions on warrant articles. The Select Board will consider identifying certain article sponsors to attend a future meeting for the discussion. So, do we have these ready to pull up on the screen?
Our Zoom host can put it up on the screen.
The list of articles is on page 32 in the packet. 34, sorry.
And while that comes up, and remind me, we talked about this a few meetings ago, but I think our town clerk was drafting a group of articles to go into like a consent agenda, right? Do we have that draft? I can't remember.
We don't have that yet.
All right, so, just so for everyone looking, as a group, how do we want to go kind of line by line? I think there's some of these, typically when we look in like the first section, there's, I would call them like recurring articles, right? I don't think, we need a ton of debate on them. But I guess I'll actually step back for one moment. So Elaine. Typically, the board gives a recommendation on all articles, right? Or certain ones need it. And again, I'm having trouble getting into the packet, so I need a little reminder. But we're going to focus on the ones that need the select board recommendation, and then we can just go individually on there. And typically, when do we want those recommendations made by? I know it's obviously.
We have, your next meeting is sufficient, so it doesn't have to be this meeting.
Yep.
This meeting, if you need more information on any articles, that's something to point out. We're still gathering some of the financial information for the motions, so they may not all be ready for your recommendation yet. And we have a couple of questions about a couple of articles that we might handle differently this year, so we can talk about those as well.
Do you want to start with those ones? And then
Okay.
I'll look for the board for any that, if they are ready, we can start discussing.
The acceptance of town reports, I think we could recommend approval on that.
We can do the town reports.
Mr. Chair, if we could maybe perhaps start, Elaine, how many articles do we have to weigh in on for town meeting?
I don't know if we've counted them.
There's
but
40 total.
maybe half or so.
I like where this guy's going.
And for the next meeting, if it's preferable, we can come up with a motion with a list of all of those at the next meeting.
Yeah. Because especially a lot of the mandatory ones, to your point, Joe, they're recurring. Like, I'm not, like, Articles 1 through 12 up there.
Yep.
That's town business.
That was kind of my comment at the beginning. I'm not worried
With you.
about those ones. I think it's anything that's new. You clearly have some thoughts on some recommendations that we might do different, so maybe we can start with those tonight. We're running ahead of schedule, so I think we should use some time to go through it.
Okay.
Want to start there?
Yeah, the first one is Article 5, which is setting the salary of elected officials, which is the town clerk. An option, it's nice to have new town council to point out some new things, but we can accommodate this in the budget instead of a separate article. So we could put this as part of the budget motion and include it in the budget, or we can leave it as a separate article,
And that's at the recommendation of our new council.
just as an option of something we could do if we wanted to.
Through the chair, I'm sorry, Elaine, you wanted to separate Article 5 into two, is that right?
No, we could incorporate that into the budget motion,
Oh, together.
or we could leave it as a separate article.
And these
Part of
already
the
have,
omnibus budget article, sorry.
Yeah.
these already have numbers, so if we moved it with the numbering change, or,
Well, we'd have to, modify the budget motion to include it, and we don't have the number yet for the salary.
oh, right, okay.
Does,
I would tend to think we should leave it as a separate article this year, but next year incorporate it in it, but all along in the budget process have it in.
Something to think about for the future, that it's not necessary to have a separate article.
Okay.
so through the chair, this is where I was going to go. Now, is it necessary to even have it as a unique line? Is it simply possible to have it as part of the town budget, and it just doesn't need an article at all?
So it may need to modify the motion, I would imagine, potentially to the omnibus budget article than we have set it historically to accommodate it, but, how we want to represent it as a line or anything else. And, it's basically a salary like we treat other salaries. It's negotiated and treated the same way.
Through the chair, because it's an elected,
I think Matt was.
oh, sorry.
You're good. We'll bounce back.
I was just going to ask, because it's an elected position, is there any legal or statutory requirement for announcing it separately?
No, I think it's been done separately for transparency, and in the past, there were more positions, more elected positions with salaries, and now there's only one.
Yeah, I kind of like the transparency part, but historically we have been, but I don't have any strong position.
Ryan, thoughts?
I kind of like leaving it separate, and I think it's sort of the tradition, and it's the only elected position that gets a salary, so it's good to highlight that every now and then.
Okay. You had thoughts?
Yeah, so just bouncing back then. So I agree, but I'm going to try and take the position you all took earlier. I prefer where Amy is here, which is I think there is some intelligence to potentially rolling it next year. However, I can get where you all are. I'd like us to at least, let's be ears open about this at town meeting and try and get some purposeful feedback. That doesn't mean doing anything different here, but I would really love to get some feedback on this one because it could be an efficiency. Every article that goes up is a couple minutes. People are gonna have commentary about it, especially because it's a political position, or at least it can be perceived that way. So I'm mindful that yes, I like the transparency. It's always gonna be a line item in the budget. Let's get some feedback from the town because we could make this less painful.
Perfect. So I didn't hear anything that said we would change it tonight, so I think we're moving forward as is. We'll be open to feedback for next year, but I think that kind of answers that one.
Okay, great. And the second one is that Chapter 90.
Yes, so this, as some of you may already know, this isn't a required town meeting vote. It's been kept in there historically as a transparency measure. However, so legal counsel, as prior legal counsel pointed out, this is not necessary. I will say, even with the effort, people point this out saying it's transparency, but I would maybe argue it a little bit differently here and say that it is in fact misleading in some ways. That because one, we're taking a vote on something that has no bearing, right? Because of a no vote, wouldn't actually prevent the town from utilizing the funds, so why take a vote? Additionally, the number we have is not the final number we often see as supplemental funds come in. So we may report a certain number to town meeting that's inaccurate. So having it in this format, I would say, even though the effort may be positive as we're trying to be transparent, this may not be the best way to provide that information. So just a consideration, we can keep the Chapter 90 done how we historically, or, the board could consider, maybe we can put it somewhere else, annual report or some other place is maybe a better place for that information.
Okay. Thoughts from the board? Amy, you want to go first?
I'm in favor of having fewer articles to maybe reduce the time in town meeting. So would it appear in the overall budget, or it just wouldn't need to appear at all?
It's money that comes from the state, and it's reported, and it's on their website. But it just comes to us whether we accept it or not.
Okay. But is it accounted for in our big budget? Do we have an estimate for
Yeah,
it?
it goes into the DPW budget.
Oh. Then I think I would be in favor of not voting it separately, as long as it's listed somewhere else.
Yeah, it's my understanding from conversations with Kerry as well. She knows what number is coming in. She's using it to build in target here. We're going to see it anyway. I like the idea of less articles.
I like the idea of incorporating it. It's pretty straightforward and passed through. Just quick question. Historically, how much the amount has been?
I think next year we're expecting a little over $1 million.
Yeah, next year's anticipated about $1 million. Historically, it's been about $650,000 for the last 10 years prior or so. But has been the last couple of years they've increased it.
Thank you.
Thoughts, Brian?
Less articles on this one is fine with me.
Yep. I think we're in agreement then for this one.
And those were the two that we had thought about.
So just be clear, are we changing that now? Right?
We can change that one now.
Perfect.
And then we will renumber them, or their numbers?
Hold on.
We'll renumber.
Okay, so these numbers are not final. Okay.
So do we need a motion to change that now?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Just to make sure we're in line?
Yeah.
Take a
All right, so I'll look for,
I'll take a swing. Yep. I move to amend the draft warrant articles to remove draft Article 9, Chapter 90 highway funds from being a designated article within the warrant.
Second.
we've got a motion and a second. Does that motion sound in order? Appropriate?
That's fine.
So we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. All right. So then, again, we're still ahead of time on this one. Do we have, going back to that idea of like recurring ones that the board needs to recommend, do we have a group of those that we could just go through?
There are a couple of articles, with the time here that the board may want to consider taking a little bit of time to discuss whether or not they want to keep them or if there's more discussion around them, two of which being the e-bike, if there's any commentary on that. Another one being the requiring civil printing for common vicular licenses.
I was going to fish on 28 and 29. We got it.
Obviously the consent, the other recommendations, we can formulate a standard motion for that for the next meeting, but some of these other more meaty topics, if you guys want to have a discussion on that, or any other articles there.
I think we should use the time to do that.
Start with e-bikes,
E-bikes? What was that, 28?
28.
Can I, usually, with that, this is one of the general bylaw amendments. We usually have a public hearing on the general bylaw amendments.
We've not scheduled that. We've scheduled a public hearing for the street acceptance on April 7th, but we can also schedule a public hearing for the general bylaw amendments as well for the same night.
I think we should do that.
Through the chair, I intended to ask for someone to come and talk to us about this one. So I've had a lot of background conversations, and it still isn't even clear to me from a state law perspective how much authority we even have to potentially regulate some of this. So for me, the conversation on 28 tonight was, yep, I definitely want the e-bikes to be slower. It's definitely dangerous. I'm not entirely convinced we can based on the understanding and the conversations I've been having. So fully supportive out loud, but I'm desperate to have some SMEs come and talk to us about what the actual Ps and Qs are on this.
Yeah, I think that's been the question from the start, right?
Yep.
Everyone had the idea going back, I think we talked in the summer originally, like,
did.
hey, we need to discuss this. We need to figure out if there is something we can do, but even finding a subject matter expert for this might be difficult since there's a lack of like state, like direction on this. So have we got any advice from council, or you have thoughts?
Yeah, council has reviewed the bylaw, and the bylaw came about, we gathered those people together who were interested in participating. So as a group, the consensus was that we wanted to allow electric bikes and other electric mobility devices on shared use paths where they're not allowed today. But if they're going to be there, to impose a speed limit. So the bylaw is intended to fill that hole in the law because we want to have people, there's a desire to have people using e-bikes and other mobility devices on shared use paths, which are the wide ones with good surfaces. And so this bylaw would allow the Trails Committee, after a public hearing, to identify those shared use paths and impose the 10-mile-an-hour speed limit that's proposed. That's really all that's intended by this bylaw, and other aspects of it were, I think, mostly covered by state law at this point, and that will evolve. Hence the generic title for this bylaw. It's intended to, in the future, it will cover more things about certain vehicles on trails and so forth.
Okay.
Anything to add to that?
No, I mean, yeah, council didn't have anything, glaring to say about the proposed bylaw amendment. I don't think there was anything outright legal or inappropriate that was, as it's presented here. It's more about the practicality of enforcement and those kinds of issues.
And yeah, we've moved away from trying to identify different classes of bike because it's very difficult, and that the technology is evolving. So basically, it came down to it's the speed that's the issue, and not necessarily what kind of bike it is.
Perfect.
Through the chair, did we clarify what is the enforcement process would be, and police would be prepared?
Yeah, so it would have to be enforced by the police department. It would be difficult to enforce, and I think we all agree it would be difficult to measure the speed of a bicycle. But perhaps there's technology out there that we can use.
Yeah, I think from a safety perspective, it's easier to have something in place so that it could be enforced as opposed to like the expectation to go out and enforce everything. So my quick questions are, you talked about the trails, so the trails has discussed this. This has been brought up in open space as well. Has this been discussed with them?
Yep.
Yep.
Well, with Ed. Ed was there.
Yep. And has the police weighed in on that aspect of, it would be their level to enforce it?
Yeah, I think they're aware of it and the need to enforce, but the ability to enforce is the difficulty.
Just wanted to make sure that it was discussed. Okay. Who else has thoughts, comments?
How about sidewalks, bike lane? I mean, does it cover all those areas of town? Or?
Yeah, I mean, sidewalks and in the roadway, including a bike lane, is already covered by state law. But our Main Street separated bike lane would be one of these shared use paths where they could be allowed with a speed limit.
With a speed limit.
With a speed limit.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, see, this is where I get concerned, though. Like, Ed is always the bike guy for me, and I remember when we put the bike lanes in, and he passionately lobbied against them because of the speed and the slope and the degeneration and danger therein. This is my long-winded way of saying, bet I could get up to 10 miles an hour on my mountain bike going down Main Street. And so I'm a little concerned about the other side of this, where we're attempting to police something for the right reasons, and I think you're eventually going to find yourself in a situation where people like me are going by and thumbing our nose at you and going, look how fast I'm going. So I'm very mindful of us over litigating and over legislating. We're after the right thing for the right reasons. Kids on skateboards and kids on bikes are going to get over 10 miles an hour on Main Street because that's how the road is sloped. It's just going to happen.
That's a good point.
Through the chair, I would echo a little bit. I think, I'm supportive of having something and that can protect and create sense of public safety and actually prevent some of the, adverse possibilities. But it would probably be, because we are the sponsor, it would be good to have a little bit reflection from the, draft owners so we can clarify some of these questions.
Why are we the sponsor? I'm having a hard time thinking why this wouldn't necessarily be something that was coming out of planning and zoning as we're thinking about the way we utilize the public space and the areas therein.
Thinking back, I think it was just us that started the discussion in the summer.
Yep.
And I felt like at the time it was an intentionally vague
Yep.
bylaw that we were talking about, just so that we could move it forward, have a discussion, figure out what the option was. I'm not saying it was the right thing,
Nope.
just that was my recollection.
And no criticism on my part. You have all appropriately sensitized me to the other parts of the town apparatus that play a vital role in our process. And so this is me now wondering, is this our decision at all? I can see us having a recommendation based on this being an overarching initiative that would directly impact community rules and policing. But I'm starting to feel like, well, this is also about how you use space, and we are not the board that is supposed to be making final decisions on how space is used in this community.
But did we not vote to submit it to the town meeting? I think we did, right?
You did.
Okay.
We did. This is me just tossing around now, like, have we gotten the appropriate discussion and recommendations? Simply because it's been submitted now doesn't mean we need to make a recommendation, nor does it need to be voted on at the
Not
end.
ready to make a recommendation tonight, but I'd like us to have a public hearing about it.
Sorry, I missed that last part, Amy.
Sorry, I'm not ready to vote to support it tonight, but I would like to have that public hearing on the general bylaws so that the public can come and the trails and the police.
I think that's fair.
Oh, yeah.
And plus, so to
No
your
suggestion we shouldn't do that.
Yeah, so to your point, though, so, I asked about, trails, open space, police, recommendations here and involvement. Are there other groups that should be involved?
Yep.
Asking that kind of openly.
Yeah, I suggested planning, but
Planning board?
Might as well.
Okay.
and if only to align us for something like this, because you could make an argument that we are almost thinking about imposing a soft, like zoning overlay in the area for a very specific type of use. I think we're empowered to do that. None of this feels like it's outside the bounds of our walls. It's more like, I would love to get their feedback on this. To me, we just discovered something interesting, which is like, this is the first, not the last. We're gonna be talking about this a lot, where these little micro areas and micro things come up, and we wanna be doing soft adjustments. Who has the ball, and what do we want that to look like?
Makes sense. So I didn't really hear an idea towards people wanting to like move forward with this tonight, so we'll probably hold off on a motion unless someone wants to try.
No, I think we can hold off and gather that feedback. That would make sense.
I think Amy has the right of it. We need to hear from the public on this one.
All right, so then I think the other one we were going to talk was Vic license process.
Yep.
Paul's technically policies, but I just want the board to kind of each weigh in where their head's at on that one. And
If I may, Joe?
Yep.
So just to add a little bit to this, Town Council is researching whether there are any legal barriers to requiring the CV license under this statute. From my research, we would be the only community in Massachusetts to require this as a CV license. I cannot find any other community that does so. There are other licenses that are commonly put under the civil fingerprinting in other communities. Those include like hawkers and peddlers, door-to-door salespeople, ice cream trucks, which like we have. Most commonly, it's just ice cream trucks in communities based on my research. But, taxi, hackney drivers, secondhand dealers, occasionally you will see manager of alcohol beverages, bodywork practitioners, and motor vehicle dealers. But I have not found any instances of a common vicular license.
Okay. That's good to know. Appreciate you chasing that, Lance. Thoughts from the board? Who wants to start?
Quick question through the chair. Do we know what would be the turnaround time to do the fingerprinting when, assuming we go into implementing it?
Well, the police department manages civil fingerprinting process. I'm not sure what the turnaround time is for them.
Yeah, that would be something I think we may collect some data points. We want to do the right thing, but also not create, huge backlog or lack of efficiency.
Another question I had about it is who would cover the cost? Would the town cover the cost, or would the applicant?
The bylaw does have a fee in there that is part of the statute.
Okay, so the statute would have
The town gets some and the state gets some.
okay.
And how much is that fee?
$100,
I think it's 100.
$100.
Yeah,
Right.
can verify.
Yep.
Through the chair, I feel like we got here for all of the right reasons, but I feel like we have gone a few steps too far on this one. I have some pretty significant concerns just from a civil liberties perspective about this. I think we're really starting to tread into what I would assert is uncomfortable territory, and I'm like, you're progressive, burn it all down, let's rebuild it from the ashes guy. I don't know that I want to be communicating to a business that we don't trust you to the point that you are expected to compromise an element of your privacy and personal being in a way that no other aspect of our current society expects of you. I mean, this is a beautiful town, it's a safe town and a safe community, and to echo the gentleman who sits to my left, TV left here, we want to be business friendly. This to me feels like an example where we can do our job as enforcement. We can do our job as the oversight without making it impractical to function in our community. So I'm a hard no on this one.
I think it really should be discussed at town meeting. A lot of people have brought up concerns about wanting it to be a stronger process. So I think if we discuss it in public at town meeting and it gets voted down, then people will feel they had their say, or may get voted up. Like a lot of professions, I work in a school, I have to get fingerprinted. That's, a lot of people have to do that for their positions, so I'm not sure. I don't know, I think it could go either way at town meeting on the vote.
Thoughts?
Through the chair, I agree with Amy. I think when we first discussed this, this is something we wanted to hear from the residents, because we heard some parts of the residents, and this seems to be one of the options to eliminate some of the larger concerns, but also the data point is important. We want to be business friendly, and we want to not create inefficiency in our system, too much oversight, all those things. So in these scenarios, I find it best to hear from larger group of residents, and town meeting is the best place to hear that.
I may be misremembering, but I thought we talked about this, fingerprinting concept a while back, and we backed off of that. We did. So I'm a little surprised that, we're still kicking it around. I share Mr. Kisner's views on this. I'm not in favor of it. I think it is an overreach, and I think there are a lot of civil liberties questions in play here, or could be in play here. So whether it gets a town meeting or not, that's fine. I guess we can get it there. But I don't support sending it to town meeting, nor would I support it at town meeting.
We did previously vote to send it, correct, to town meeting?
You voted to submit this into the warrant.
Okay, and we could remove it, but we did originally vote to submit it.
Yep. So, I mean, considering the conversations, for this, because I certainly agree with, if we start overstepping, our positions, it certainly can have a negative impact on economic development, and I'm always trying to be cognizant of that. And so I almost wonder if there's kind of a middle ground. Does this need to be part of every year? Can it be once every couple of years? Is there a way to find a happy medium here?
Oh, it doesn't say annually, does it? Is it an annual thing?
It's unclear, I think, whether it happens once or annually.
Okay.
I think if we can't even answer the most basic of, through the chair, if we can't answer the most basic of questions about how we logistically intend to implement it, I think it tells a good story as to whether or not we should be implementing it.
And council recommends that we accompany this with a policy that talks about what happens when you discover something through this as well, and
Yeah,
basically the ins and outs of this process.
Now we're inventing laws.
Do we have such a policy for the ice cream truck vendors?
No,
But we
that's
do
a
require.
one-time, that's an annual or occasional license. It's not a renewal license.
Was that recommended policy in the packet?
We've not written it yet,
We
I
don't
think.
have a policy at this point.
No, but council recommended one. Have they drafted one or just recommended a policy in general?
They recommend a policy.
All right, yeah, I mean,
Some more work, right?
yeah, that sounds like I don't know, I don't like the direction that's going. I'd probably like to, at a minimum, since we've got time and we're not like pressed up against it right now, I'd probably like to see a version of that to just understand what we're discussing. So that would kind of be my thought right now tonight.
I think that makes sense. We have, some more information to gather, how long it's going to take, how it impacts the legality. I think Brian and Matt brought that up. And then what policy and what other framework we need to support this, and are we overstepping it? So I think once we have that information, we can revisit this and see.
Okay.
Through the chair, have we heard from Chamber on this at all? Because I know we tried to talk about this when it came up the first time, and I don't feel like we ended up getting to have a good conversation with them about it. Not a criticism, just to me, they are an incredibly significant stakeholder, and I still don't feel like I have a good sense of where they stand on this. Mr. Herr and I are essentially generically trying to represent the business concerns that I would want represented by the Chamber of Commerce. That voice matters a ton to me here, because if they come in and they say, you know what, it is a little onerous, but that doesn't matter to us because we do business in this town and it's a high standard town and we're a high standard business. Maybe that's what they say. And then, well, Brian and I really have a hard time being a lot more concerned than the Chamber of Commerce might be. I'm not trying to put words in their mouth, just they're an important person for me here.
So I think that's a good next step.
That's the
Ahead of our
benefit of
next-
having the public hearing. They could come. That's the benefit of us having the public hearing. They could come and the chamber could come.
So this is a general bylaw change, and if we have a public hearing at the next meeting that includes all general bylaws, then this would be one of them. You'd hear from people.
We could specifically reach out to them.
Yep.
As stakeholders.
I would like
I think
to.
at a minimum, we'll do that, reach out to them, get an opinion. They meet pretty regularly, so.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think public hearing, and just to refresh this, we heard in like 10 meetings about concerns on this, right? That's what kind of led to crafting this and this brainstorm. So I think, and I am a big proponent of economic development, as you know and have heard, but we also want to hear from all parts of residents, and public hearing would be a good forum to evaluate that.
Through the chair, to add to that, this is not the culmination of that full discussion. A common vehicular policy is being drafted and currently reviewed by legal counsel right now. So that is encompassing a lot of the discussion that the select board has had previously around this and having a clear policy in place. So that'll be coming to the board when it's, after we're done with legal counsel's reviews. So this is not sort of, I just want to represent that the civil fingerprinting is not the only action being taken by the board in that regard.
Okay. Yeah, I'm certainly not hearing anything to continue this conversation tonight. So we'll probably move on. So with that, like Lance Lane, any other articles you think we should discuss tonight? And I'm opening that up to the board as well, if there was any in particular board members would like to discuss tonight.
I wanted to understand a little bit about the Article 21, which is, let me read that.
I have some information on that one. But the article we approved for the MBTA Communities Act did not quite meet state standards, so we have to modify it for it to count.
Right, that one.
Planning board recommended this modification.
And do you have more context on this and help us understand a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's, as Amy mentioned, the town's map and parcel map that it adopted wasn't quite compliant with the state's requirements, so they're adding additional parcels to it to connect a couple of parcels to create the required amount of land.
Yeah, it pretty much connects like that downtown area, like near CVS to Walcott, right? So that's just, I forget the term, but it's got to be connected. And planning board already made, I believe they all agreed on that.
They've held their hearing,
Yep.
And they submitted to the warrant and recommended approval, right?
from what I read online.
So we can't remove it, it's the,
We
Yeah.
don't have a
The article.
application yet, but.
Yeah, so that's one we're really recommending or we're not recommending, that one, when it comes down to it.
oh, dude,
It's not a,
zoning, so we don't,
Oh, we don't even need to recommend it?
no, it's not a select board
Okay.
recommendation.
And Elaine, to understand, in a scenario, if this gets rejected, does it nullify our previous approval, or that one stands, right? Because there's a lot of legal implication around this. So I want to make sure we are trading a safe path.
If it doesn't pass, we'd have to try again until we get compliant.
Through the chair, worth noting that this state AG has gotten increasingly litigious about this.
Yep. Nope. The last I saw on the planning board, it made sense what they were doing. I was personally in support, but if the board doesn't need to weigh in, then I don't know how much we need to discuss it.
is the map on the town website, the planning board recommended new map?
I have not looked.
Okay, that would be good for everyone to be able to see it.
Yep.
Through the chair, we don't have to try and get into it now, but I would like to get a little bit more on the Ps and Qs of Article 38. Because it's a citizen's petition, I want to understand how that interfaces with, this is my theme of the night, planning board. Does the fact it's been submitted essentially just create like a warp lane where it doesn't necessarily go through the process? Because something like, I'm looking at something like Linden, which is being recommended for acceptance by the Department of Public Works. That suggests to me that we have a defined process. I'm all about a citizen making a petition. Citizen's petition is fine, obviously, but I want to understand what it means in this particular circumstance.
So just like any other street acceptance, this board has to have a public hearing, and that'll be April 7th. And this road will be included, Osceola Drive. Also, there's a proposal to amend the bylaw that will also be part of the public hearing, so we will see the petitioner on April 7th.
But I don't,
It's part of the process for all street acceptances and bylaws.
does that also go to planning, or is it just us as the executive function? I'm basically trying to figure out who has like the technical SME on the decision. It's clearly us as the executive in terms of accepting the maintenance, the upkeep, the precedence. Feels very clear that's our decision. I'm trying to figure out who is the person who's going to look me in the face and say that road is fine.
The planning board and DPW director are also making recommendations to this board.
Thank you. I'm all set.
But because a citizen submitted it, we can't remove it. That's,
And I'm not suggesting that we can, we should. I truly just wanted to understand because we had another almost like-for-like article, and it just suggests divergence.
One thing we don't know yet are the dollar amounts associated with the article.
Thank you.
did you say, which is the other citizen's petition?
Pardon me?
There's two citizens petitions, right? What's the other one?
The other one is article number
18, is it Hawthorne Lane, 18? Number 18, then.
Hawthorne Lane. That is a $60,000 request.
So that wouldn't go to our general bylaws public hearing, but it might go to the capital improvements?
It will, I believe, go to capital improvements. Yep.
Yeah, it's a capital request for a project.
I'm all set.
Everyone good?
Yep, sounds good.
So again, we've got upcoming meetings. We'll dive into some of these a little bit more, probably good for tonight. So I think that brings us to the town manager's report.
Okay. So this evening, as outlined in my memo, seeking authority to sign an MOU on behalf of the town, and that's for the Massachusetts Interagency Mutual Aid Agreement, which has not been signed in since 2013 was the last one. They're in place indefinitely once they're signed until they want to make some changes in the agreement. In this case, there's some modernization. So it updates the prior agreement, which was signed in 2013. Participation allows the town to send and receive police officers to provide law enforcement assistance, but also establishes a working partnership to address public safety concerns and other matters. There's no cost to participate, and the mutual aid agreement would be in effect for an indefinite period of time. And the town has adopted this statute in 1977 that allows it to participate in this agreement.
Perfect, thank you. To the board, any questions, comments here for Elaine?
I think the mutual aid program is a great benefit to the town, so I'd certainly recommend we continue it. Our chief of police, and you recommend this?
Yes.
And the fire department as well, fire chief? Okay.
Well, the fire department has a separate mutual aid agreement. This is the one just.
Oh, this is just for the police, okay.
Matt?
I was just going to make the motion.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm all set.
people are welcome to make a motion once they have comments.
Mr. Chair, Elaine, does this, I'm trying to remember, I was doing that years back, but does this allow other police organizations to come into the town of Hopkinton without an invitation and take action, or do they have to go through the police to come into town?
That I don't know the answer to.
I know we can have, so this
It depends
allows them,
on what-
this gives us the opportunity to bring them in if we need help. But can they walk in on their own if they decide we need help, is my question.
I don't know the answer to that question, but we could find out.
I think it's usually like a request from the town.
Yeah.
They go out to the
Yeah,
other departments.
I'm good in that regard, but I just wouldn't want to have an open border for, and I don't think that's what happens, but just technically, I want to make sure we're not opening ourselves up for something. Okay,
It
thank you.
does say when exercising the agreement, they should report to the commanding officer as soon as possible, if that helps.
Didn't we already have something like this?
We do. Yeah, I included that in the packet as well.
So this is an upgrade on that, or?
renewal.
Renewal of that, okay, yeah. No, I'm
Safe
good.
to
with
assume we have a functional process at the moment.
Yeah.
But it is a fair concern for Brian.
I'm okay.
I mean, I don't think at any point the towns, whether it's, this one's for the police, but, you know, on the same side for the fire department, I don't think at any point our town loses control of the situation. They should be in control the whole time, based off the way these things work.
That's the intent.
Okay. I'm good.
I move to authorize the town manager to sign the Massachusetts Interagency Mutual Aid Agreement on behalf of the town of Hopkinton.
Second?
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
And that's all I have. There are no town position vacancies to report.
Perfect. Moving on, liaison reports and board invites. Who wants to start?
I'll start quickly. So myself, Amy Shahadul, Elaine, and a few other members of the community got a chance to tour the farmers market on Sunday with the Department of Agriculture, as well as Rep. DeRosa. We had Susan from Senator Spilka's office. Just really nice. The weather was beautiful, so not a bad place to be. That farmers market has really grown. As somebody who only goes there situationally, I was really impressed by just the quality of vendors. But more than that, just some of the stories that you run into there. I'm running into neurodivergent children making doses. My wife called them virtuous doses, was the good name she came up with for them. I appreciated that not only did it feel like I was supporting my story, it felt like I was supporting my community and my soul at the same time. That is exactly what that's supposed to do. It's supposed to enrich more than just what you get as a purchase. It absolutely felt like it did. So I apologize for getting on my high horse, but I hope you all come and you check this out, supporting the businesses that come there. That's not Walmart or Target, folks. That's the person who lives next to you and makes jewelry on the side. We get those vendors and those nice things in our community by supporting them. So that was my note there.
Good.
Sure. I agree with Mr. Kisner. It was a wonderful event, and it's great to see our farmers market has really turned around from where it was, I think, 2-3 years ago. Since the new transformation, it's been very successful, both outdoors and indoors, and very vibrant. So excited to see that. And the officials who came from DAR, Department of Agriculture, and then I think Mass Gardens Association, Representative James DeRosa, everyone was very supportive, and they're doing tour across the towns, and they were very impressed. So loved it, and hope we continue to grow on that front. Certainly it's healthy food as well as great gathering. The second one I wanted to also bring up was there was two nice iftar events. One was at the high school, by the High School Muslim Association, Students Association. It was well participated, people from all faiths. It was a great gathering, and the school officials and other board members also from different town boards attended. Really wonderful event, and some of those were, I think, very well appreciated Hey, everyone. And then I don't have the list in front of me, Amy, or maybe Elaine, you can help. There are some events coming up from HCA and a few others. We can make those announcements so everyone's aware.
I'm actually going to the HCA one.
That's it.
Nothing to report. I did mention that the corridor project is restarting this spring again for the final time, or actually our kickoff meeting, if you will, or just to restart the engine is March 24th. Mass DOT, VHB engineers, Town Engineers Department, Amarillo Construction, and others will be gathering virtually to set the plan in motion for the spring work. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to just echo the same. I enjoyed attending the farmers market this weekend, and the iftar at the high school last week was really lovely. And the high school students organized it themselves, so it was really touching to be there. And then we have coming up the HCA thing March 16th. Sach is having a concert at the HCA on the 28th. Quilt show April 10th, and the marathon wreath ceremony. We just got that saved the date, which was April 16th, and in Boston, and that's a really nice event too. I mean, it's in Boston, but it's really nice. I feel like, oh, and then the Commission on Disability has had 2 real successful meetings the last 2 times, and they may be ready soon to bring something back to the Select Board. We had met with the Commission on Disability in Framingham, and they told us that they get, they receive all if somebody parks in a handicap spot and they get caught and they pay a fine, the Commission on Disability collects those funds, and then they use them for projects that support people with disabilities, including funding police officer shifts to specifically monitor the handicap parking spots in town. So you could hire them to just do a shift where they drive around to all the parking lots. And first you start with mornings, obviously, and then you just get right now people might not think it's enforced very often and not feel like it's important to follow the law, even though we all know it's the law. So anyway, that's an idea that they would maybe consider bringing to Hopkinton if it's possible, but there's probably many steps to get that going.
Perfect. Just real quick through the chair. A thank you to the Hopkinton Parent Teacher Organization. While I did not attend as a select board member, I promise I attended as a parent of 2 young children. Hop Swap was this past weekend, was an absolute success. I think I saw a line of probably 500 to 600 people waiting outside that door at 9 a.m. and more than a few wagons of stuff moving. I really appreciate what a nice community event that has become. That is on people's calendars. I love it. Thank you for everyone involved.
I agree. So Amy, you touched on the dates for a couple ones coming up. So we've got Monday is the HCA, the Cultural Council one.
Yep.
Right? The quilt show is the April 10th.
Yep.
Just want to make sure we have coverage for all those. I know I can definitely make the quilt show.
And I'm going on Monday to the HCA thing.
I'm planning to go to both, yeah.
And I always like the Boston one, so I will go to that. That's not till April, but
Okay. All right, so we do have some coverage for all of them, it sounds. Okay.
And one other update is we're having the interview for the school CFO in the coming week. So I'll keep you posted.
So you're doing that.
I'm doing that, yeah. It's going to be all-day session. Apparently, we got a pretty good number of candidates, which is great.
Is that tomorrow?
No, it's been moved to next week because Jeff had something. Next week, all day on Wednesday. If I need any help, I'll howl out.
Okay. All right. So we kind of started blending that into, so we did liaison reports, board invites, future board agenda items. I know we touched on a couple things, but.
Yeah. Are we ready to retire anything? Probably not yet.
I don't think so. We did a cleanup a few weeks ago. I think more so than retiring, we probably need to, now that we've kind of wrapped up the budget conversations, we can probably start refocusing on some of these agenda items
Yeah,
and prioritizing those ahead of town meeting.
it's a good idea. I wanted to add one more, which is Julia Chun with her help and Chamber of Commerce and forgot the full acronym, MSCP. Combined, we are working on an economic development plan for which Julia had helped get a grant, if you remember. So that's a work in progress, but we could schedule something to get an update from them and get an overview. I think it's coming up with a lot of good information that everyone would appreciate. So that would be a good item.
Okay, I like that. Got it.
Nothing to add, thanks.
Matt, Amy, future agenda
I
items?
don't think anything else now.
I'll indulge briefly here. I guess I have two questions. One, the Keefe Tech apportionment change. I've actually had quite a few conversations with Sabine and our committee members. Maybe this is just my not knowing the process. Elaine, do I reach out to John, the superintendent, to come talk about this? Do you reach out? Does Sabine reach out?
I can reach out.
I guess there's a few things on here that I would perceive as we put in action on, that is we would like somebody to come talk to us, but it's not totally clear to me what to do to make that happen.
Yeah, we typically reach out, so I've reached out to the SBC, to Open Space, to Commission on Disability, and I can
Okay.
reach out to John Evans as well.
I would appreciate it because he's offered to come. I just didn't want to.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set.
All right, I don't have anything additional to add. Probably look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a good
you.
evening.
Got out of here at 6:30, that's great.
Yeah. 7:30 before time.
6:30.
That's an old school clock there.
Yeah.
I got up the other morning, almost everything in my life had changed on the